Isaiah Monroe's hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the choice he was about to make. His 8-year-old daughter stood 3 feet behind him, screaming his name. Below the shattered guardrail, a black Mercedes SUV was sinking into Charleston Harbor. A woman's fist pounded against the driver's side window, desperate, weakening. Isaiah knew if he jumped, he might not come back. He knew Zara could lose her only parent tonight. He jumped anyway. He didn't know the woman drowning in that car was the same CEO who had signed his termination papers 18 months ago. He didn't know saving her life would force him to confront everything he thought he understood about forgiveness. The phone rang at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Isaiah wiped his hands on a rag already black with engine grease and pulled the phone from his back pocket. The screen was cracked down the middle. Had been for 8 months, but he could still read the name. Pinehurst Elementary. His stomach dropped. Mr. Monroe. Yeah, what happened? Zara's fine, sir. She had another episode during recess. She's in the nurse's office. We think it would be best if you picked her up early today. Isaiah closed his eyes. He pressed the phone hard against his ear. I'll be there in 20. He hung up and stood still for a moment, staring at the boat engine he'd been rebuilding for the last 4 hours. $42 an hour under the table. No benefits, no insurance, just cash and the quiet dignity of work that kept his hands busy and his mind from wandering to places he couldn't afford to go. He grabbed his jacket and walked toward the dock office. Walter Kane, the marina owner, looked up from behind a cluttered desk. 61 years old, ex-Navy, built like a barrel and weathered like driftwood. He'd given Isaiah this job when no one else would. Got to go get Zara, Isaiah said. School called again. Walter didn't ask questions, he never did. Go. Finish the Yamaha tomorrow. I'll stay late tomorrow to make it up. Isaiah, go get your kid. Isaiah nodded once and left. The drive to Pinehurst Elementary took 14 minutes. Isaiah spent every one of them gripping the steering wheel like it owed him money. Another episode. That's what they called it now. Episode like Zara was a television show with a recurring plotline. Like her fear, her nightmares, her sudden screaming fits in the middle of a playground full of laughing children. Like all of it was just something that needed a better word. It had started 9 months after Nicole died. Nicole, his wife, the woman who had made every room she entered feel like it had more oxygen in it. The woman who had looked at Isaiah on their first date and said, "You're either the most honest man I've ever met or the best liar. Either way, I'm staying for dessert." She stayed for 14 years. Then she didn't. Ovarian cancer stage 4 by the time they caught it. 4 months from diagnosis to funeral. 4 months of watching the strongest person he'd ever known become someone he had to carry to the bathroom. Zara had been 6.5. Now she was 8, and the world terrified her. Isaiah pulled into the school parking lot, cut the engine, and sat there for 10 seconds. He looked at himself in the rearview mirror. 39 years old, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago. A jaw that was always clenched now, even in sleep. Hands that could rebuild a diesel engine from memory but couldn't figure out how to make his daughter stop being afraid. He got out and walked inside. Zara was sitting on the nurse's cot with her legs pulled up to her chest. Her sneakers were untied. Her brown hair, Nicole's hair, fell across her face. "Hey, baby girl." She looked up. Her eyes were red but dry. She'd already done her crying. "I'm sorry, Daddy." Those 3 words hit him like a hammer. "Don't you ever apologize for that," he said. He knelt down in front of her. "You hear me? You've got nothing to be sorry for. Mrs. Patterson said I scared the other kids." Isaiah felt something hot move through his chest. He kept his voice steady. "What happened?" Zara picked at the edge of the cot. "We were playing tag and then Marcus pushed Jenny into the puddle by the swings and she went under for a second and I couldn't stop screaming." Water. It was always water. Ever since Nicole's funeral held on a rainy November afternoon with puddles on the cemetery path, Zara had developed a terror of water. Not a dislike, not a preference for showers over baths. A full-body electric fence screaming until she couldn't breathe fear. The school counselor had used the word trauma response. The pediatrician had recommended therapy. Therapy cost $180 a session, and Isaiah's insurance had ended the same day his employment did, the same day Vivian Cross signed his name on a termination list. He pushed that thought down. He always pushed it down. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's get out of here." Zara slid off the cot and took his hand. "Can we get ice cream?" Isaiah almost laughed. "Almost. Yeah, kid, we can get ice cream." They drove to Sweetwater Creamery, a little stand near the waterfront that had been there since Isaiah was Zara's age. 2 scoops of strawberry for her, black coffee for him. They sat on a bench near the pier. The sky was gray and getting grayer. Wind coming off the harbor had a bite to it. Zara ate her ice cream slowly, the way she did everything now, carefully, like the world might shift beneath her at any moment. "Daddy." "Yeah." "Do you think Mommy can see us right now?" Isaiah took a slow breath. "I think she can." "Do you think she's mad I got scared today?" "Baby girl, your mom was never mad at you a single day in her life, and she wouldn't start now." Zara nodded. She took another bite of ice cream. "Daddy." "Yeah, I don't want you to die." The words came out so simply, so plainly, like she was telling him she didn't want broccoli for dinner. But Isaiah heard what was underneath, the raw, screaming terror of a child who had already lost one parent and lived every day waiting to lose the other. He put his arm around her and pulled her close. "I'm not going anywhere, baby. Promise. Promise." That promise lasted approximately 9 minutes. Zara saw it first, a black Mercedes SUV, expensive, moving too fast, coming down the hill toward the waterfront. It blew through the stop sign at the bottom without even tapping the brakes. "Daddy, that car!" The sedan hit the guardrail at the edge of the pier. The metal buckled. The car didn't stop. It launched off the edge and hit the water nose first with a sound like a cannon shot. Zara dropped her ice cream. For 2 seconds, the car floated. Isaiah could see the driver through the windshield. A woman, dark hair, mouth open in a scream he couldn't hear. Her hand slammed against the glass. Then the nose dipped. The water rose over the hood. The car began to sink. "Daddy, save her." Zara's scream split the air like a siren. Isaiah stood up. His body moved before his mind caught up. He looked at the water, black, churning, 48 degrees at best. He looked at his daughter, standing on the bench, shaking, tears already streaming. Every nerve in his body fired at once. If he jumped, he might not come back. The water was cold enough to lock his muscles in minutes. The car was sinking fast. If it pulled him under, Zara would have no one. No mother, no father. An 8-year-old girl alone on a pier, watching her last parent disappear beneath the surface. He looked at her. She looked at him. "Daddy, she's going to die." Isaiah grabbed Zara's shoulders. "Baby, listen to me. I need you to run to that bait shop right there. You see it? You run in there and you tell them to call 911. Can you do that?" "Daddy, no. Can you do that?" Her chin trembled. She nodded. He pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "Be brave for me." Then he ran. He hit the edge of the pier at full speed and launched himself into the water. The cold was immediate, absolute, like being buried in concrete. Every muscle in his body seized, his lungs locked. For one terrible second he couldn't move, just hung there in the dark water like a man who'd already drowned. Then he kicked. Survival instinct is a strange thing. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't consult with fear or logic or common sense. It just moves. And Isaiah Monroe, a man who had spent his life fixing things other people had given up on, moved. He swam toward the car. It was already 10 feet under. The headlights still glowed beneath the surface, casting sick yellow beams into the murk. He could see the outline of the woman inside, still moving, still fighting. He reached the driver's side window. His fist bounced off the glass, once, twice, nothing. His lungs were burning. The cold was eating into his arms, his legs, his thinking. He had maybe 90 seconds before his body started shutting down. He looked around. A loose piece of the broken guardrail, a jagged metal bracket, had sunk nearby. He grabbed it, swung it at the window with everything he had. The glass shattered. Water rushed in. The car lurched deeper. Isaiah reached through the broken window, felt the woman's arm, her shoulder. She was limp now, unconscious. The seatbelt was still holding her in place. He couldn't feel his fingers. He fumbled for the buckle, pressed it. Nothing. Pressed it again. The mechanism was jammed. 45 seconds, maybe less. He wedged the metal bracket under the belt and pulled. The fabric tore. The woman slumped forward. He grabbed her under the arms and pulled her through the window, cutting his forearm on the glass. He didn't feel it. He kicked toward the surface with the woman's dead weight against his chest. His legs were going numb. His vision was narrowing. The surface seemed impossibly far away, a pale gray circle that kept retreating. 10 seconds. He kicked harder. 5 seconds. His head broke the surface and he gasped, a raw, ragged sound that barely qualified as breathing. The woman's face was blue. She wasn't breathing. He swam toward the pier. His arms felt like they belonged to someone else. When he reached the ladder, he couldn't grip it. His hands were useless, frozen into claws. He looped one arm through the ladder rung and held the woman's head above water with the other. "Help! Somebody help me!" 2 fishermen appeared above him. They reached down and pulled the woman up first, then Isaiah. He collapsed on the dock, coughing water, shaking so violently his teeth cracked against each other. But he didn't stop. He crawled to the woman, tilted her head back, and started CPR. He'd learned it 16 years ago in a community college class he'd taken because Nicole made him. Because Nicole had said, "You never know when you'll need to save someone." Isaiah pressed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nothing. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nothing. "Come on," he growled through his chattering teeth. "Come on, breathe." He gave 2 breaths, pressed again. The woman convulsed. Water poured from her mouth. She coughed, violent, choking, alive. Isaiah sat back on his heels. His whole body was shaking. Blood ran from the gash on his forearm and pooled on the dock. Then he heard it. "Daddy." Zara slammed into him so hard she nearly knocked him back into the water. Her arms wrapped around his neck. She was sobbing. Deep, broken sobs that came from somewhere no 8-year-old should know existed. "You scared me, Dad. You scared me. You scared me. You scared me." He held her. He held her so tight his frozen arms ached. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." "You promised," she cried into his neck. "You promised you wouldn't leave. I didn't leave. I'm right here." He could hear sirens in the distance. The fishermen were on their phones. The woman on the dock was breathing, coughing, alive. Zara pulled back and looked at him. Really looked at him with those eyes that were so much like Nicole's it physically hurt. "Don't ever do that again." "I won't." "Liar," she whispered. And despite everything, the cold, the blood, the terror, Isaiah almost smiled because she was right. He would do it again, every time, for anyone. That was the part of himself he couldn't turn off, no matter how much it cost him. The ambulance took 12 minutes. The paramedics wrapped Isaiah in a thermal blanket and cleaned the gash on his arm. 7 stitches. He refused to go to the hospital. "Sir, you were in 48-degree water for over 3 minutes. We need to monitor you for hypothermia." "I'm fine." "Sir, we really should. My daughter is standing right there. I'm not getting in an ambulance and leaving her on this dock. Stitch me up and let me go." The paramedic looked at Zara, then back at Isaiah. At least let us take your vitals, take them fast. Zara sat next to him on the back of the ambulance, her hand gripping his so tightly he could feel her fingernails digging into his palm. She didn't let go, not for 1 second. Daddy, who is that lady? I don't know, sweetheart. Is she going to be okay? The paramedics are taking care of her. Zara was quiet for a moment. Mommy would have been really scared if she saw that. Isaiah swallowed hard. Yeah, she would have. But she would have been proud of you too. He looked down at his daughter, this small, terrified, impossibly brave little girl, and felt something crack open in his chest. Not pain, something else. Something that felt dangerously close to the thing he'd been running from since Nicole died. Come on, he said. Let's go home. They didn't go home. Not right away. Because as Isaiah carried Zara toward the truck, a man in a dark suit intercepted them. Tall, clean-shaved, the kind of man who smelled like money and spoke like a lawyer. Mr. Monroe. Isaiah shifted Zara to his other hip. Who's asking? My name is Marcus Aldridge. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Cross Maritime Corporation. The name hit Isaiah like a second wave of cold water. Cross Maritime, Vivian Cross, the company that had employed him for 6 years as a senior marine systems technician. The company where he'd been Employee of the Quarter twice, the company that had laid off 216 people in a single Thursday afternoon restructuring 18 months ago. Isaiah among them. He remembered the letter. He remembered reading it in the parking lot with his lunch still on the passenger seat. He remembered calling Nicole, who was already 6 months gone but hadn't told him how bad it was getting, and saying, I lost my job. Vivian Cross, the woman he just pulled from a sinking car. You've got to be kidding me, he said quietly. I assure you I'm not. Miss Cross is being transported to Charleston Medical Center. She's conscious and asking about the man who saved her. When we ran the dock security footage, we identified you. I'm here to... I don't want anything. Mr. Monroe, you saved Miss Cross's life. She would very much like to... I heard you the first time. I don't want anything from Vivian Cross. Not a thank you, not a check, not a handshake. Nothing. He walked past Aldridge toward the truck. Mr. Monroe, please, if you just... Isaiah stopped. He turned around. Zara was watching him with those big, careful eyes. Let me tell you something, Mr. Aldridge. 18 months ago, your boss signed a piece of paper that took my livelihood. I had a wife who just died from cancer, a daughter who needed me home, and I got a form letter telling me my position had been eliminated. No call, no meeting, a letter. So no, I don't need her gratitude. I did what any decent person would do. That's the end of it. He opened the truck door, set Zara inside, buckled her seatbelt. Good night, Mr. Aldridge. He drove away. In the rearview mirror, he could see Aldridge standing in the parking lot, phone already at his ear. Zara looked at him from the passenger seat. Daddy, are you mad? No, sweetheart, you look mad. I'm just cold. Liar, she said again. And this time he didn't almost smile. At home, Isaiah put Zara in a warm bath, made her soup, and read her 2 chapters of Charlotte's Web, her current favorite because Nicole had started reading it to her and Isaiah was determined to finish it. When she finally fell asleep, he sat on the edge of her bed and watched her breathe. In and out, slow and steady, the most important sound in the world. He thought about the water, how dark it was, how fast the cold had moved through him, how for 1 second, just one, he had wondered if he was going to die down there. He thought about Zara standing on that pier watching him disappear. He thought about Nicole. I almost broke my promise tonight, he whispered to no one. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists when you're the last adult in it. Isaiah went to the kitchen, poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat at the table. His stitched arm throbbed. His body ached in places he didn't know could ache. The phone on the counter buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and again, and again. He picked it up. "Mr. Monroe, this is Marcus Aldridge. Before you hang up, Miss Cross wanted me to tell you one thing. I'm hanging up. She said to tell you she's sorry." Isaiah's finger hovered over the end call button. "She said she didn't know about your wife, about your daughter. She said she signed the restructuring order without reading a single name on it, and she said, 'That's exactly the problem, Mr. Monroe. She's not asking you to come in. She's not asking for a photo op or a press event. She's asking for 5 minutes. That's all." Isaiah stared at the wall, at the photo of Nicole hanging next to the refrigerator. Nicole laughing, Nicole with Zara on her shoulders, Nicole alive and unbreakable. "5 minutes," he said. "Thank you, Mr. Monroe." Isaiah hung up. He looked at the bourbon in his glass. He looked at Nicole's photo. "What would you tell me to do?" he asked the empty room. But he already knew the answer. Nicole would have told him to go. Not because Vivian Cross deserved it, not because there was something to gain, but because Nicole Monroe had believed fiercely, stubbornly until her very last breath that people could change, and that the ones who pull others from the water have an obligation to see what happens next. Isaiah drained his glass. Tomorrow he would go. But tonight he sat alone in the quiet house, listening to his daughter breathe through the thin walls, and wondered how a man with 7 stitches, $52 in his checking account, and no insurance could possibly be the one someone like Vivian Cross needed saving from. Or maybe saving by. Isaiah woke up at 5:14 a.m. to the sound of Zara crying. Not screaming, not like the episodes at school, but the quiet, suffocating kind of crying that a child does when she's trying not to be heard. The kind that travels through walls like smoke. He was on his feet before his eyes were fully open. Down the hall. Her door was cracked, the nightlight casting a pale orange glow across the room. Zara was sitting up in bed, hugging her knees, her face buried. "Baby?" She flinched. "Hey, it's me. It's Daddy." He sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't look up. "I had the dream again," she whispered. Isaiah didn't ask which dream. He knew. She'd been having it since Nicole's funeral. The water dream. The one where someone she loved went under and didn't come back up. Except now the dream had a new version. "You were in the water," she said. "And I was on the pier and I was screaming, but no sound came out and you went under and the water turned black and I couldn't see you anymore." She finally looked up. Her eyes were swollen. Her bottom lip trembled. "And then I woke up and I came to your room and your bed was empty." Isaiah's chest tightened. He'd fallen asleep at the kitchen table. The bourbon glass was probably still sitting there. "I'm right here, baby. I fell asleep downstairs. I thought you were gone." "I'm not gone. I thought the water took you like it took Mommy." The sentence landed like a brick. Isaiah opened his mouth and nothing came out for a moment. Nicole hadn't died in water. She died in a hospital bed with machines beeping and fluorescent lights buzzing, and Isaiah holding one hand and Zara holding the other. But in Zara's mind, death and water had merged into the same thing. Rain at the funeral, the dream, and now yesterday. "Baby, look at me." She looked. "The water didn't take Mommy. Mommy got sick. That's different. But the water almost took you." He couldn't argue with that. "Yeah," he said, "it almost did." "So what if it tries again?" Isaiah pulled her into his lap. She was getting too big for this. Her legs dangled past his knees, but neither of them cared. "Then I'll fight it again and I'll win again because I've got the best reason in the world to come back." "What reason?" "You, dummy." She almost laughed. Almost. It came out as a wet hiccup against his chest. "Daddy." "Yeah. Can I stay home from school today?" He should have said no. Routine was important. The school counselor had said so. Structure, consistency, predictable patterns, those were supposed to help with anxiety. "Yeah," he said. You can stay home. Because sometimes the counselors were wrong. Sometimes what a kid needed wasn't structure. It was her father. He carried her downstairs, made pancakes, the only thing he could cook that Nicole would have approved of. And they ate together in silence while the sun came up through the kitchen window. At 8:30, his phone buzzed. Marcus Aldridge confirming a 10 o'clock meeting at Charleston Medical Center, room 412. Isaiah stared at the message. "Who's that?" Zara asked through a mouthful of pancake. "Nobody important. Liar." He looked at her. She was watching him with that expression she'd inherited from Nicole. The one that said, "I see right through you and we both know it." "It's about the lady from yesterday. The one in the water. The one you saved." "Yeah. Is she okay?" "She's in the hospital. She wants to talk to me." Zara chewed slowly. "Are you going to go?" "I don't know." "You should go." "Why?" "Because Mommy would say you should." Isaiah set his fork down. He stared at his daughter, 8 years old, afraid of water, afraid of loss, afraid of everything, and marveled at how she could still be the bravest person he knew. "Yeah," he said, "she would." He called Walter. "Walter, I need the morning. I'll be in by noon. Take the day, Isaiah. You jumped into the harbor yesterday. You're not Superman. I need the hours, Walter, and I need you not to pass out on my dock. Take the day, full pay." Isaiah paused. Walter had never offered full pay for a day off. Not once in 18 months. "Walter, don't argue with me. I was in the Navy 30 years. I've pulled men out of water. I know what it does to you. Take the day. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't do anything stupid today." Isaiah hung up and looked at Zara. "Looks like we both get the day off. Can I come with you to see the lady?" Every instinct told him no. Keep Zara away from it. Don't drag her into whatever complicated, uncomfortable conversation was about to happen with the billionaire CEO who had fired him. "Sure," he said, because the alternative was leaving her alone. And after last night, after the dream, after I thought you were gone, he wasn't leaving her anywhere, not today, not ever. They drove to Charleston Medical in the truck. Zara wore her yellow life jacket even though it wasn't raining. She'd been wearing it everywhere since Nicole died. It had been Nicole's before it was hers, cut down and restitched by Nicole's own hands during her last good month. Isaiah parked. They walked through the hospital lobby. Zara held his hand tight enough to whiten her knuckle. "Daddy, I don't like hospitals. I know. Mommy died in a hospital. I know, baby. This isn't the same hospital. No, it's not." "Okay." She squeezed tighter and they got in the elevator. Room 412 was at the end of a long corridor. Marcus Aldridge was standing outside. Same suit, same clean-shaved jaw, same expression of professional composure that probably cost a fortune to maintain. "Mr. Monroe, thank you for coming." Isaiah nodded. Aldridge's eyes moved to Zara. "And this must be my daughter. She goes where I go." "Of course." Aldridge straightened. "Miss Cross is awake. I should tell you she has a concussion and 2 cracked ribs. The doctors are keeping her for observation. She may not look." "I've seen people in hospital beds before," Isaiah said. Aldridge heard what was underneath that sentence. He had the decency not to respond. "5 minutes," Isaiah said. "That's what you asked for. That's what you get." "Understood." Isaiah pushed the door open. Vivian Cross was sitting up in bed, propped against 3 pillows. Her left arm was in a sling. A bandage covered the right side of her forehead. 5 lines ran from her wrist to a pole beside the bed. She looked smaller than Isaiah expected. On television, in the business magazines Nicole used to read, Vivian Cross was a force. Sharp suits, sharper eyes, the kind of woman who walked into boardrooms and made powerful men stutter. Forbes had called her the most formidable CEO of the decade. The Wall Street Journal had described her as surgically precise. But here in a hospital gown under fluorescent lights with tubes in her arm and bruises on her face, she looked like a woman who had almost died. Because she had. Her eyes found Isaiah. Then they moved to Zara. Something shifted in her expression. Not pity, something deeper. Recognition, maybe. Like seeing the girl standing there holding her father's hand suddenly made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. "Mr. Monroe, Miss Cross, thank you for coming. You've got 5 minutes." She almost smiled. It was a joyless, tired thing. "Marcus told you about the 5 minutes." "He did. I probably deserve the time limit." Isaiah didn't confirm or deny. He just stood there, his hands still wrapped around Zara's, and waited. Vivian looked at Zara again. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Zara pressed closer to Isaiah's leg. "Zara," she said quietly. "That's a beautiful name. My mommy picked it." A pause. Vivian glanced at Isaiah. He gave nothing away. "Zara, your daddy is a very brave man," Vivian said. "I know. He's also stubborn." Isaiah looked down at his daughter. She looked up at him and shrugged. Vivian exhaled, half laugh, half wince from the cracked ribs. "She's right about that," Vivian said. "I tried to find you last night. Your man at the marina wouldn't give me your address. The paramedics wouldn't release your information. I had Marcus checking dock security footage for an hour before we got a clear image." "Sounds like a lot of effort for a thank you." "It's more than a thank you." "It shouldn't be." Vivian closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, Isaiah saw something he hadn't expected. Not the calculated composure of a billionaire, but the raw, unprocessed emotion of a woman who was still shaking on the inside. "Mr. Monroe, do you know why my car went into the water?" "Brake failure. That's what the news said. The news got it half right. The brakes failed." "But I was on the phone when it happened. I was on a call with my board of directors arguing about quarterly projections while driving 30 miles an hour above the speed limit on a road I take every day. I was so consumed with being right about a number on a spreadsheet that I didn't react fast enough when the brakes gave out." She paused. "I almost died because I was thinking about money." Isaiah said nothing. "And the man who saved me, the man who jumped into freezing water and broke my window with his bare hands and pulled me out, was someone I fired, someone whose life I disrupted with a signature I don't even remember writing. You didn't fire me personally. I signed the restructuring order. I approved the lists. That's the same thing, Mr. Monroe, whether I want to admit it or not." The room went quiet. The heart monitor beeped steadily. "When Marcus told me your name, I pulled your file. I read it last night. Senior Marine Systems Technician, 6 years of exemplary performance. Employee of the quarter twice, and in the margin of the termination document someone had written a note. Wife terminal cancer. Recommend retention. Critical breadwinner." And someone else had crossed it out in red ink. Isaiah's jaw tightened. "I don't know who crossed it out," Vivian said. "It might have been me. I reviewed hundreds of files during that restructuring. I don't remember most of them. That's the truth, and it's the worst thing I can tell you because it means your life, your family's life, was just a line item to me." Zara tugged Isaiah's hand. "Daddy, what's a line item?" Isaiah looked down at her. Then he looked at Vivian. "It means she didn't think about us." Vivian flinched, but she didn't look away. "That's exactly what it means," she said. "And I'm not going to insult you by pretending I can make that right with a check or a job offer or some corporate apology drafted by my legal team." "Then what do you want from me?" "I want 5 minutes of honesty. That's what I asked for. So here it is." She sat up straighter, wincing as her ribs protested. "I am 53 years old. I built Cross Maritime from a one-room office with $11,000 in startup capital. I have a net worth of $4.8 billion. I have homes in 4 states, a board seat at 2 foundations, and a security detail that follows me everywhere I go. She paused. And last night in that water, none of it meant anything. Not one cent, not one achievement, not one magazine cover or keynote speech. I was drowning, Mr. Monroe, and the only thing I could think was, no one is coming. No one is going to jump. Her voice cracked on the last word. She caught it, steadied herself, but Isaiah had heard it. Zara had heard it too. But you did, Vivian said. You jumped without knowing who I was, without caring. You jumped because someone was in trouble and that was enough for you. And your daughter, your 8-year-old daughter, who I now know is terrified of water because of what happened to her mother, stood on that pier and told you to save me. Vivian's eyes moved to Zara. You told him to save me. Zara nodded slowly. Why? Zara thought about it. Really thought about it the way children do when they take a question seriously. Because she was scared, Zara said, and nobody should be that scared alone. The room went completely still. Vivian Cross, a woman who had negotiated billion-dollar mergers, who had fired board members and survived hostile takeovers, who had never in her professional life let anyone see her cringy, pressed her hand over her mouth and turned her head toward the window. Isaiah watched her. He watched the way her shoulders shook, the way she fought it, the way she lost. He looked down at Zara. Give her a minute, baby. Zara, without being asked, walked to the side of Vivian's bed. She reached up and placed her small hand on Vivian's arm gently, the way Nicole used to touch people when they were hurting. It's okay, Zara said. My daddy cries too. He thinks I don't hear him, but I do. Isaiah felt the floor shift beneath him. Vivian looked at Zara, then at Isaiah, then back at Zara. Your mother must have been an extraordinary woman, Vivian said quietly. She was the best, Zara said. She could make anybody feel better. Even when she was really sick, she'd still make us laugh. What was her name? Nicole. Vivian nodded. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. No tissue, no delicacy, just a raw, graceless gesture that made her look human for the first time since Isaiah had walked in. Nicole, Vivian repeated. I wish I'd known her. She would have liked you, Zara said. Isaiah almost said something, almost corrected her because Nicole probably would not have liked Vivian Cross. Not the Vivian Cross who signed layoff orders without reading names. Not the Vivian Cross who drove too fast while arguing about quarterly projections. But the Vivian Cross sitting in this hospital bed crying in front of a stranger's child. Nicole might have liked her just fine. Your 5 minutes are up, Isaiah said. Vivian looked at him. I know. I'm going to go now. I know. He took Zara's hand. Mr. Monroe. He stopped at the door. I'm not going to offer you money. I'm not going to offer you a job. But I want you to know I'm going to find that note in your file. The one that said recommend retention, and I'm going to find out who crossed it out. And I'm going to make sure it never happens to anyone else. That's a nice speech. It's not a speech, it's a promise. Isaiah looked at her for a long moment. In my experience, Miss Cross, promises from people in hospital beds don't always survive the discharge. Then hold me to it. I don't plan on seeing you again. You might be surprised. He opened the door. Daddy, Zara said, pulling his hand. Wait, she turned back to Vivian. Are you going to be okay? Vivian looked at this child, this small, fearful, astonishing child, and something in her expression settled. Not into composure, into resolve. I'm going to try very hard to be, Vivian said. Good, Zara said, because my daddy doesn't jump into water for just anybody, so you better be worth it. Isaiah's eyebrows went up. Vivian stared at Zara. Then Vivian laughed. A real laugh. The kind that hurt her cracked ribs and made her grip the bed rail and wince. I will do my absolute best, Vivian said. Zara nodded, apparently satisfied, and walked out. Isaiah followed her without another word. In the hallway, Marcus Aldridge was waiting. Mr. Monroe, can I give you my card in case? No, it would just be for... I said no, Mr. Aldridge. He walked toward the elevator with Zara beside him. They rode down in silence, through the lobby, into the parking lot, into the truck. Isaiah sat behind the wheel and didn't start the engine. Zara buckled her seatbelt. Daddy? Yeah. She was really sad. Yeah, she was. Not pretend sad. Real sad. I know. Like Mommy is gone sad. Isaiah gripped the steering wheel. Something like that. I think she's lonely, Zara said. I think she has a lot of stuff, but nobody to sit with her when she's scared. Isaiah turned and looked at his daughter. 8 years old, afraid of water, afraid of loss, afraid of hospitals and puddles and sleeping alone. And yet somehow still able to see the loneliness in a billionaire's eyes when the billionaire herself couldn't name it. When did you get so smart? He asked. Mommy always said I got it from her. Isaiah let out a breath that was almost a laugh. She was right. He started the truck and pulled out of the parking lot. They drove in silence for a while. Zara fiddled with the zipper on her yellow life jacket. Daddy? Yeah, I know you don't like her because of the job thing. It's not that I don't like her, baby. I just don't trust people who live in a different world than us. But she almost died in the same water you jumped into. That's the same world. Isaiah opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Baby, when did you start winning arguments? Mommy taught me. Of course she did. They stopped at a red light. Isaiah looked in the rearview mirror at the hospital shrinking behind them. He thought about what Vivian had said. I was drowning and the only thing I could think was, no one is coming. He thought about Nicole in her last week, holding his hand at 3 in the morning. She'd said, promise me you won't become bitter. Promise me you'll still see the good in people even when they don't deserve it, especially when they don't deserve it. He'd promised. He'd broken that promise 100 times in 18 months. Every time he looked at the layoff letter, every time he checked his bank balance, every time Zara had an episode and he couldn't afford the therapy she needed. But Nicole had known he'd break it. That's why she'd made him promise. Not because she expected perfection, but because she knew the promise itself would pull him back every time. The light turned green. We're going to the marina, Isaiah said. I need to finish that engine. Can I bring my book? You can bring whatever you want. Zara smiled. It was small and fragile and imperfect, and it was the most valuable thing Isaiah Monroe had ever seen. They drove toward the water, the same water that had tried to kill him yesterday, the same water that haunted his daughter's dreams. And for the first time in 18 months, Isaiah didn't feel the weight of the layoff letter in his chest. He felt something else instead, something he couldn't name, something that had started in a hospital room when an 8-year-old girl put her hand on a billionaire's arm and said, "Nobody should be that scared alone." At the marina, Isaiah lifted the hood on the Yamaha engine and went back to work. Zara sat on an overturned bucket with Charlotte's Web in her lap, reading quietly, glancing up every few minutes to make sure he was still there. Walter came by at noon with sandwiches. Thought you were taking the day off, changed my mind. Walter looked at the stitches on Isaiah's arm. You're a stubborn man, Isaiah Monroe. So I've been told. Walter sat down next to Zara. How's the book, kid? Charlotte just died. It's really sad. Yeah, it is. But the ending's good. How do you know? Because good stories always end with the people who matter still standing. Zara thought about that. Is my daddy in a good story? Walter looked at Isaiah, grease-covered, stitched up, exhausted, working on a $42 an hour engine with hands that had saved a life less than 24 hours ago. Kid, Walter said, your daddy's in the best story I've ever seen. Zara smiled and went back to reading. Isaiah kept working. The engine was stubborn. The parts were old. The bolts were rusted in places and stripped in others. But he knew how to coax broken things back to life. He'd been doing it his whole career. Boats, engines, machines, things that other people gave up on. Isaiah fixed. He just hadn't figured out how to fix himself yet. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something, instinct, curiosity, Nicole's voice in the back of his head made him pull it out. It wasn't Aldridge. It was a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Monroe, this is Vivian Cross. I got your number from the hospital intake form. I know you said you don't want to see me again, but I found the file. I found the note. Recommend retention. Critical breadwinner. And I found who crossed it out." Isaiah stared at the screen. 3 dots appeared. Vivian was still typing. "It was me. I crossed it out. I don't remember doing it, but it's my handwriting. I eliminated your job while someone was trying to save it. I need you to know that. I know that. And I need you to know that it will never be acceptable to me." Another pause. More dots. "You told me promises from hospital beds don't survive the discharge. I'm still in the hospital. But I'm making this promise anyway. Not to you, to your daughter, because she told me I better be worth it, and I intend to be." Isaiah read the message 3 times. He put the phone back in his pocket and picked up his wrench. He didn't reply, but he didn't delete the message either. 3 days passed before Isaiah replied, not because he'd been thinking about it. He told himself that. Told himself he'd been busy. The Yamaha engine. 2 more dock jobs Walter had lined up. Zara's school conference on Thursday. He told himself Vivian Cross's text was sitting unanswered because he simply hadn't gotten around to it. The way you forget to return a library book or pay a phone bill. But that was a lie, and Isaiah had never been good at lying to himself. Nicole had made sure of that. The truth was he'd read the message 14 times. He'd memorized it. He'd sat in the truck after dropping Zara at school on Friday morning and stared at the words. "It was me." I crossed it out and felt something he didn't have a name for. Not anger, not satisfaction, something heavier, something that sat in his chest like a stone he couldn't cough up. She had crossed out the note, the one that said recommend retention, the one that might have saved his jeeb, kept his insurance, paid for Nicole's medication in those final months when they were choosing between prescriptions and groceries. Vivian Cross had drawn a line through his life with a pen, and then she'd told him about it voluntarily without being asked. Without a lawyer present, without any tactical advantage. That was the part Isaiah couldn't shake. He picked up the phone, typed 4 words, deleted them, typed 6 different words, deleted those. Sat there for another 2 minutes with his thumbs hovering. Finally, he sent, "I appreciate you telling me the truth." That was it. 7 words. He put the phone in the glove box and drove to the marina. By the time he parked, Vivian had already responded. "Truth is the least I owe you. Can I ask one thing?" He shouldn't have read it. He should have left the phone in the glove box and gone to work and let the whole thing sink to the bottom like the car he'd pulled her from. "Ask," he typed. What did Zara mean when she said nobody should be that scared alone? Isaiah stared at the screen. He could hear Walter inside the shop, the radio playing something old and country. He could smell diesel and salt and the particular stink of low tide. "She meant exactly what she said," he typed. "She's 8. She doesn't do subtext. I think she's wiser than both of us." Isaiah almost smiled. "Almost. She gets that from her mother," he replied. He put the phone away for real this time, locked the glove box, went to work. But all morning, while his hands rebuilt a fuel pump and replaced corroded wiring, his mind kept circling back to the same question Zara had asked in the truck. "She almost died in the same water you jumped into. That's the same world." At noon, Walter brought him coffee. "You look like a man who's chewing on something." "I'm fine." "Didn't say you weren't fine. Said you look like you're chewing." Isaiah took the coffee, drank half of it in one pull. You ever do something that went against everything your gut told you? Walter leaned against the workbench. I spent 30 years in the Navy, Isaiah. My gut and I have been in a fist fight since 1979. I'm serious. So am I. Walter crossed his arms. What happened? The woman I pulled from the water. Vivian Cross, the billionaire. Yeah. What about her? She wants to talk. She's been texting me. She found out she was the one who personally crossed out a note in my file. Someone had flagged me for retention because of Nicole, and Vivian killed it herself. Walter let out a low whistle. And she told you this voluntarily? Yeah. Huh. Walter scratched his jaw. That takes guts. Or a good PR strategy. Could be both. Could also be neither. Some people, when they nearly die, they come out the other side different. Seen it happen. Seen men come back from the edge and suddenly care about things they never cared about before. And some people just get scared for a week and go right back to who they were. That's true too. Walter looked at him. So which one is she? I don't know. Then I guess you've got to figure that out. Why? Why is that my problem? Walter pushed off the workbench and headed for the door. He stopped halfway. It's not your problem, Isaiah, but it might be your opportunity, and a man in your position doesn't have the luxury of ignoring those. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've got $52 in your checking account, no health insurance, a daughter who needs therapy you can't afford, and a dead wife who would smack you upside the head if she knew you were turning down a conversation with someone who wants to make things right. Isaiah flinched. Walter held up his hand. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what Nicole would tell you. And you know I'm right. He walked out. Isaiah stood alone in the shop holding a half-empty coffee cup and hated that Walter was right. Hated it deeply, specifically, and completely. He pulled the phone from the glove box. One conversation, he typed to Vivian. Not at the hospital, not at your office, somewhere real. The reply came in 30 seconds. Name the place. Sweetwater Creamery on the waterfront, Saturday, 10 a.m. I'll be there. Isaiah put the phone down and went back to work. Saturday came the way Saturdays always did, with Zara bouncing on his bed at 6 a.m., asking for pancakes, and Isaiah pretending to be asleep for 2 more minutes before giving in. They made breakfast together. Zara cracked the eggs. She'd been doing it since Nicole taught her at 5, and she still got shell in the batter every single time. And Isaiah still picked it out without telling her. Daddy, are we going to the pier today? Yeah, we're meeting someone. Who? Miss Cross. Zara stopped stirring. The water lady. Don't call her that. The lady from the hospital. Yeah. Zara resumed stirring slowly, deliberately. Is she going to cry again? I don't know, baby. Because I don't want her to cry. It made my stomach hurt. Mine too. Then why are we going? Isaiah poured batter onto the griddle. Because sometimes you have to sit across from someone who hurt you and give them a chance to be different. Is that what Mommy would say? Word for word. Zara nodded. Okay, but I'm getting 2 scoops. Deal. They arrived at Sweetwater Creamery at 9:50. Zara immediately went to study the flavor board like she hadn't memorized it years ago. Isaiah stood by the truck and watched the parking lot. At exactly 10 o'clock, a black SUV pulled in. Not a limousine, not a motorcade. A single black SUV with tinted windows. The driver stayed in the car. The back door opened and Vivian Cross stepped out. She looked different. Not because the bruises had faded, they hadn't. Not entirely. Isaiah could still see the yellow-green edge of one creeping past the sunglasses she wore. She looked different because she was trying to. No suit, no heels, dark jeans, a gray sweater, flat shoes, hair pulled back simply. No jewelry except a watch. She was trying to look like someone who belonged at an ice cream stand on a Saturday morning. And she almost pulled it off except for the way she stood. That particular posture of someone used to entering rooms where everyone else stands up. She walked toward him. Mr. Monroe, Miss Cross, you can call me Isaiah. Then you can call me Vivian. I'll think about it. She almost smiled. She looked around and spotted Zara at the flavor board. She's here. She goes where I go. So I've learned. They ordered. 2 scoops of strawberry for Zara, black coffee for Isaiah. Vivian hesitated at the window, then ordered a single scoop of strawberry. When's the last time you had ice cream? Isaiah asked. I genuinely don't remember. That's a problem. I'm beginning to realize I have several. They sat at a picnic table, Zara between them, working through her strawberry with methodical dedication. The silence lasted about 45 seconds before Vivian broke it. I've been doing something I should have done a long time ago, she said. Going through the layoff files, all 216 of them. Not the summaries, the actual personnel records. Why? Because you told me the truth in that hospital room. You said I didn't think about you, and you were right. So now I'm thinking. Isaiah said nothing. He waited. 43 of the people I laid off had medical situations, spouses undergoing treatment, children with disabilities, employees recovering from surgeries. The retention team flagged every single one of them. And every single flag was overridden during the final review. By you, by me, by my VP of Operations, by the restructuring committee. We sat in a conference room for 11 hours and reduced 216 human beings to a cost-per-head analysis. I remember drinking 4 cups of coffee and saying approved so many times it stopped sounding like a word. It stopped sounding like a word, Isaiah repeated quietly. That's a hell of a sentence. It's the truth. And now what? You read the files and you feel bad. Then what happens? Vivian turned the ice cream cup in her hands. She hadn't taken a bite. I spoke to my board 3 days ago. I proposed a full review of every terminated employee with a flagged medical situation. Full back pay, full benefits restoration, retroactive coverage for any medical expenses incurred during the lapse in insurance. Isaiah set his coffee down. You're joking. I don't joke about money, Isaiah. It's the one thing I've always taken seriously, maybe too seriously. Your board approved that? My board told me I was out of my mind. They said it would cost upward of $14 million and expose the company to liability admissions. So they said no. They said no. And I said I wasn't asking for permission. I told them I'd fund it personally if the company wouldn't. And I told them if they tried to block it, I'd go to the press with every single file, including the handwritten notes that were crossed out. Isaiah stared at her. You threatened your own board. I gave them a choice. The same kind of choice you gave yourself on that pier. Jump or don't. That's not the same thing, isn't it? You risked your life, I'm risking my company. The mechanics are different, the principle is the same. The principle is not the same. I was trying to save a human life. You're trying to save your conscience. Vivian took a slow breath. Maybe that's all it is, but does the reason matter if the result is the same? If 43 families get their back pay and their medical coverage, does it matter whether I did it out of guilt or grace? Isaiah opened his mouth to argue, then he closed it. Because she had a point, and he hated that she had a point even more than he'd hated Walter having one. Eat your ice cream, he said. It's melting. Vivian looked down at her cup. She picked up the spoon and took a bite. Something crossed her face, not just the taste, but the simplicity of it. A woman worth $4.8 billion eating a $1.50 scoop of strawberry at a picnic table. And for 1 second looking like she didn't know what to do with how ordinary it felt. Zara looked up from her strawberry. Miss Vivian? Yes, Zara. Do you have kids? The question landed like a dropped glass. Vivian's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. No, she said. I don't. Why not? Zara. It's okay, Vivian said. She set the spoon down. I chose my career, Zara. For a very long time, I believed that building something big was more important than building something small. I thought companies lasted longer than families. That's not true, Zara said. Companies get sold, families don't. Vivian looked at her. You're right. Families don't get sold. My mommy died, but she's still my family. She'll always be my family. You can't restructure that. The word restructure coming out of an 8-year-old's mouth should have been comical. It wasn't. It landed like a verdict. Isaiah watched Vivian's face. He watched her absorb it. He watched her not deflect, not spin, not reframe. She just sat there and took it. No, Vivian said quietly. You can't. Zara went back to her ice cream. Daddy, can I go look at the boats? Stay where I can see you. I know. She grabbed her cup and walked to the railing, leaning over to watch the harbor. Isaiah and Vivian sat across from each other. The space between them suddenly felt wider without Zara in the middle. She's remarkable, Vivian said. She's terrified every day of water, of loss, of waking up and finding out I'm gone. She can't sleep without a nightlight. She can't hear rain without flinching. She's 8 years old and she carries more weight than most adults I know. Has she seen someone? A therapist? No. Because of cost? Isaiah's jaw tightened. Because of cost. Vivian didn't say anything for a moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. She slid it across the table. Dr. Simone Langford. She's a child psychologist who specializes in grief and trauma. She's one of the best in the state. I've already spoken to her. She's willing to see Zara twice a week for as long as it takes. I can't afford. It's already paid for. 12 months prepaid. Not through the company, through me personally. No strings, no publicity, no tax write-off. Isaiah stared at the card. Dr. Simone Langford. A phone number, an address in a part of town where the buildings had lobbies and the elevators didn't smell like bleach. I told you I don't want charity. And I told you this isn't charity. You saved my life. Your daughter is suffering because the system I perpetuated failed your family. This isn't a gift. It's a debt. A debt? Yes. One I'll be paying for a long time. Isaiah picked up the card, turned it over, put it down, picked it up again. If I say yes to this, it's for Zara, not for you, not for me, for her. I wouldn't expect anything less, and it doesn't mean I forgive you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. What are you asking for? Vivian folded her hands on the table. The sunglasses hid her eyes, and Isaiah wished she'd take them off because he couldn't read someone he couldn't see. I'm asking for time, she said. Time to prove that the woman you pulled out of that water isn't the same woman who signed your termination papers. People don't change that fast. No, they don't, but they can start. Isaiah looked out at Zara by the railing. She was talking to a seagull, gesturing with her ice cream spoon, having what appeared to be a very serious conversation. Nicole used to do that, talk to animals like they were listening, like they owed her a response. There's something else, Vivian said. Of course there is. I've been thinking about what you said in the hospital, that you don't hold grudges, that you did what anyone should do. Yeah, I've been thinking about that because it isn't true. What you did isn't what anyone would do. I've been in rooms with the most powerful people in the world, senators, generals, Fortune 500 CEOs, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that most of them would not have jumped into that water. Not for a stranger, not for someone who'd wronged them, not with their child watching. Then they're worse people than I thought. They're not worse. They're just afraid. Everyone is afraid, Isaiah. The difference between you and everyone else isn't that you weren't scared. It's that you jumped anyway. I didn't have time to think about it. Exactly, that's exactly my point. When you didn't have time to think, your instinct was to save someone. When I don't have time to think, my instinct is to protect the bottom line. That's the difference between us. And it's the thing I'm trying to change. Isaiah finished his coffee. It was cold now. He drank it anyway because he'd paid for it. And Isaiah Monroe didn't waste things. I want to show you something, Vivian said. Not today. When you're ready. I've started a new division at Cross Maritime, Marine Safety and Emergency Response Technology, Rescue Systems, Cold Water Survival Gear, Coastal Alert Networks, the kind of technology that could have prevented what happened to me, and the kind that saves people like the ones who don't have an Isaiah Monroe standing on the pier. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you involved, not as a charity case, not as a feel-good story, as a consultant. You have 20 years of real-world marine experience. You know boats, engines, water, weather, survival. I have engineers with PhDs who have never been in the ocean above their waist. They're brilliant, but they're theoretical. You're practical. I need both. I fix boat engines for $42 an hour. And the Pentagon pays defense contractors $400 for a hammer. The price tag doesn't determine the value. Isaiah almost laughed. It caught in his throat and came out as something closer to a cough. I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking. Zara came running back from the railing. Daddy, there's a pelican out there and he stole a fish right out of a guy's bucket. And the guy yelled at him, but the pelican didn't care. Good for the pelican, Isaiah said. Can we come back next Saturday? Isaiah looked at Vivian. Miss Cross is a busy person. I'm not busy next Saturday, Vivian said. Then catching herself, she looked at Isaiah. If that's all right. Zara looked at Isaiah with those Nicole eyes, the ones that weren't asking permission so much as informing him of what was about to happen. We'll see, Isaiah said. That means yes, Zara told Vivian. It does, Daddy. It always means yes. Vivian pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. They stood up from the table. Vivian extended her hand. Isaiah looked at it. A billionaire's hand, manicured, soft, untouched by grease or salt water or the particular roughness that comes from 20 years of manual labor. He shook it firmly once. Thank you for coming, Vivian said. Thank Zara. She's the one who said you were lonely. Vivian's composure cracked for just a second. She said that. In the truck after the hospital, she said you had a lot of stuff, but nobody to sit with you when you're scared. Vivian didn't speak for a long moment. She's right, she finally said. She usually is. Vivian got into the SUV. The driver pulled away. Zara waved. Vivian waved back through the tinted glass. Isaiah stood in the parking lot with his daughter's hand in his, watching the SUV disappear. Daddy. Yeah, I think she's going to try really hard. What makes you say that? Because she ate the ice cream, all of it, and she didn't check her phone once. Isaiah looked down at Zara. When did you start paying attention to things like that? Mommy always said you can tell what someone cares about by what they put down. Nicole, even gone, she was still teaching, still guiding, still reaching through her daughter's mouth to say the exact thing Isaiah needed to hear, at the exact moment he needed to hear it. Come on, he said, we've got things to do. Like what? Like calling a doctor named Simone Langford. Zara squeezed his hand. For me? For you? Because of Miss Cross? Because of your mommy? She would have found a way to get you help no matter what. I should have done it sooner. Daddy, it's okay. It's not okay, but it's going to be. They got in the truck. Isaiah pulled out the business card and dialed the number before he could talk himself out of it. A receptionist answered. He made an appointment for the following Tuesday. When he hung up, Zara was watching him. Daddy, yeah, I'm scared. Of the doctor. Of talking about mommy to a stranger. Isaiah reached over and put his hand on top of her head. You know what your mommy would say? What? Brave doesn't mean not scared. Brave means scared and doing it anyway. Like jumping into the water. Yeah, baby. Like jumping into the water. Zara looked out the window at the harbor, at the water that terrified her, at the pier where her father had almost died, at the place where everything had started to shift. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll jump." Isaiah started the truck. His hands were steady on the wheel. The gash on his arm still pulled when he gripped too hard, and the stitches were itching in that particular way that meant they were ready to come out. He drove them home, made lunch, read Zara another chapter of Charlotte's Web, did laundry, fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom that he'd been putting off for 3 weeks. Normal things, small things, the kind of things that hold a life together when everything else is trying to pull it apart. That night, after Zara was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table with the business card and his phone in the quiet. He opened Vivian's text thread, read through it again, all of it, from the first message to the last. Then he typed, "Saturday works. Sweetwater, same time. Zara says you should try the strawberry." The reply came in under a minute. "Tell Zara I will." Isaiah put the phone down. He looked at Nicole's photo on the wall. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said to her. The house was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. But in the silence, Isaiah thought he heard something. Not a voice, not words, just a feeling warm and steady and impossibly familiar that settled over him like a hand on his shoulder. It felt like Nicole saying, "Yes, you do." He turned off the kitchen light and went to bed. And for the first time in 18 months, he didn't dream about drowning. He dreamed about building something. He didn't know what, but his hands were moving and the pieces were fitting together. And somewhere in the background, Zara was laughing. It was enough. The first Saturday became a second. The second became a third. By the fourth Saturday at Sweetwater, Zara had stopped calling her Miss Cross and started calling her Vivian, which Vivian accepted with a kind of quiet gratitude that Isaiah pretended not to notice. Zara tried the strawberry again. Vivian ordered strawberry too, just like Zara had told her to. She took one bite and said, "This is significantly better than the vanilla." Zara beamed like she'd brokered a peace treaty. Isaiah drank his black coffee and watched. He was still watching, still measuring, still waiting for the moment when Vivian Cross would revert, when the hospital bed humility would wear off and the boardroom would come back, when the thank yous would stop and the transactions would start. But 4 Saturdays in, it hadn't happened. On the 5th Saturday, it rained. Isaiah almost canceled. Zara's fear of rain had improved slightly since starting sessions with Dr. Langford. 2 appointments in, and already Zara was sleeping without the nightlight on 3 out of 7 nights. But a rainy outing to the waterfront felt like pushing it. Zara made the decision for him. "Daddy, we're still going." "It's raining, baby. Vivian will be there. She'll understand if we skip a week." "I don't want to skip a week." "I like talking to her." Isaiah paused with his coffee mug halfway to his mouth. "You like talking to her? She listens different than other grown-ups." "She doesn't do the face." "What face?" "The sorry face, the one people make when I talk about mommy, like they're going to break." "Vivian doesn't do that. She just listens and then she asks me real questions." "What kind of real questions? Like what mommy's favorite song was and what she smelled like and whether she snored?" "Your mother did not snore." "Daddy, she snored so loud. You used to say it was like sleeping next to a lawnmower." Isaiah's chest tightened in that particular way it did whenever Zara said something that brought Nicole so sharply into the room that he could almost see her. "Fine," he said. "We're going. Wear the life jacket." They went. Vivian was already there, sitting at the covered picnic table with 2 coffees and a strawberry ice cream waiting for Zara. She was wet. Her driver had an umbrella. She'd apparently waved it off and walked through the rain. "You didn't have to come in the rain," Isaiah said. "Neither did you," Zara insisted. "Then Zara has better judgment than both of us." Zara grabbed her ice cream and sat down. Vivian, did you know my mommy snored? I did not. She did, like a lawnmower. That must have been charming. Daddy thought so. He says he misses it. Isaiah looked at Zara. She looked back, innocent as a grenade. I didn't say that. You did. You told Uncle Walter last week that the house is too quiet. That's the same thing. Vivian was trying not to smile. Isaiah could see it. She was pressing her lips together the way people do when they know that smiling would be inappropriate, but can't quite help it. She's got you, Vivian said. She's been getting me since she learned to talk. They sat in the rain for an hour. Zara talked about Charlotte's Web. She'd finished it and was furious that Charlotte had died, then grudgingly admitted the ending was beautiful. Vivian talked about a book she'd read as a chit, something about a rabbit, and confessed she couldn't remember the title or the ending, just the feeling of reading it under a blanket with a flashlight while her mother thought she was asleep. Your mommy didn't know? Zara asked. My mom always knew. She just let me think I was getting away with something. That's what mommies do, Zara said. The sentence sat in the air between the three of them. Zara didn't cry. Vivian didn't look away. Isaiah didn't change the subject. Something had shifted. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just a slow incremental turning, like a tide that changes so gradually you don't notice until you realize the water is touching your feet. The following Tuesday, Isaiah kept his word and went to see the Safety Innovation Lab. He didn't want to. He'd put it off for 3 weeks, finding excuses, the engine work, Zara's schedule, a soreness in his arm that he blamed on the stitches but was really just reluctance wrapped in muscle. But Vivian hadn't pushed. She hadn't mentioned it again after the first Saturday. She'd simply given him the address and said, "Whenever you're ready." It was Walter who finally shoved him out the door. Go see what she built. If it's garbage, walk away. If it's not, stop being so damn proud and do something about it. I'm not proud. Isaiah, you jumped into freezing water to save a woman who fired you and then refused to let her thank you. You're the proudest man I've ever met. Now get out of my shop. Isaiah drove to the Cross Maritime campus, expecting glass towers and security checkpoints and the particular sterile hum of corporate money. What he found was a converted warehouse on the industrial side of the waterfront. The sign outside read, Safety Innovation Lab, Research and Development. There were pickup trucks in the parking lot next to the BMWs. Someone had propped open the main door with a cinder block. Vivian met him inside. No suit today, he said. I stopped wearing suits here on the second day. The engineers thought I was a building inspector. She walked him through the space. Workbenches lined the walls covered in prototypes. Cold water immersion suits, rapid deploy flotation devices, automated distress beacons. Engineers moved between stations, arguing, sketching, testing. The energy was different from what Isaiah expected. Not corporate, more like a garage, more like a marina. This is Devin Pierce, Vivian said, introducing a man in his 30s with grease under his fingernails and a MIT sweatshirt. He's heading the engineering team. Devin shook Isaiah's hand. Vivian tells me you pulled her out of a sinking sedan with a piece of guardrail. It was available. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Our current window breach prototype takes 8 seconds to deploy. You did it in under 3 with a chunk of metal. That's not engineering, that's instinct. It's also desperation, Isaiah said. Same thing in my experience. Devin grinned. Come look at what we're working on. Isaiah spent 2 hours in that warehouse. He didn't mean to. He meant to walk through, nod politely, and leave. But Devin showed him the cold water suit prototype, and Isaiah found a flaw in the zipper seal within 30 seconds. Then he looked at the flotation device and pointed out that the inflation trigger was positioned wrong for someone in panic. Then he picked up the distress beacon and asked why it didn't have a manual override for situations where the automatic sensor failed. Because sensors always failed in his experience at the exact moment you needed them most. Devin stared at him. How long have you been doing marine work? 20 years. And you're fixing engines at a dock. I'm making a living. Devin looked at Vivian. I want him. I don't care what it costs. That's up to Isaiah, Vivian said. Isaiah set the beacon down. I told you I don't want charity. Isaiah, this isn't charity, this is Devin Pierce, who has a PhD from MIT and 20 patents, telling me you found 3 critical design flaws in 2 hours that his team missed in 6 weeks. I'm not offering you a handout. I'm offering you a job, a real one, because you're qualified, because you're good, because people will die if these products go to market with the problems you just identified. Isaiah looked at the workbench, at the prototypes, at the engineers arguing in the corner about waterproof seal adhesion like it was the most important thing in the world, because it was. To someone drowning, it was the only thing in the world. What's the job? Director of Field Testing and Practical Design. You'd work with Devin's team to make sure everything we build actually works in real conditions, not in a lab, in the water, in the cold, in a storm. You'd be the person who says this will kill someone before it kills someone. Director, I don't have a college degree, neither did the guy who built the first life jacket. Experience outranks credentials, Isaiah. It always has. What's the pay? Vivian told him. Isaiah's hands went still. That's 4 times what I make at the marina. It's market rate for the position. It's not market rate for a guy who's been fixing outboard motors for 18 months. It's market rate for a guy with 20 years of marine experience and the practical instincts to back it up. I'm not inflating the number. I had my HR team benchmark it against comparable positions at 3 companies. If anything, it's conservative. Isaiah looked at her, looked for the angle, looked for the catch, looked for the trapdoor that always existed when someone with power offered something to someone without it. He couldn't find it. I need to think about it, he said. Take all the time you need. He drove home, picked Zara up from school, made dinner, read her a chapter of their new book. Zara had chosen The Secret Garden because Nicole had a copy on her nightstand when she died, and Zara wanted to know why. After Zara was asleep, he called Walter. She offered me a job. Doing what? Isaiah explained it. The Safety Innovation Lab, the prototypes, the title, the salary. Walter was quiet for a long time. You're going to take it, Walter said. I didn't say that. You called me at 9 o'clock at night to tell me about it. You're going to take it. I don't know if I trust her. You don't have to trust her, Isaiah. You have to trust yourself. You've spent 20 years knowing what keeps people alive in the water. You've been wasting that knowledge on 30-year-old outboard motors. No offense to my business, none taken. Take the job, do it right. If she turns out to be who you're afraid she is, you walk away. But if she's who Zara thinks she is, if she's actually trying to change, then you walking away doesn't just hurt you. It hurts every person who drowns because a flotation device had the inflation trigger in the wrong place. Isaiah stared at the ceiling. You're a real pain, Walter. That's why you called me. Isaiah hung up. He sat in the quiet for a long time. Then he walked to Nicole's photo on the wall. He stood there for a full minute looking at her face. I think I'm about to do something stupid, he said. Nicole smiled back at him from behind the glass, that smile, the one that said, do it anyway. He texted Vivian at 9:47 p.m. I'll take the job, but I have conditions. Name them. 1. Zara comes to the lab after school on days I'm working late. I'm not paying for a sitter I don't trust. Done. I'll set up a space for her. 2. I report to Devin, not to you. I don't want anyone thinking this is personal. Agreed. 3. If I find something wrong with a product, it doesn't ship. I don't care about the launch date, the investor meeting, or the quarterly projection. If it's not safe, it doesn't go out the door. No exceptions, no overrides. There was a long pause. Isaiah, that's not how employment works. It's how I work. Another pause. Fine, but the evaluation period is 90 days, not 6 months. And when you prove yourself, which you will probably in the first week, you accept the full salary without arguing. Deal. When do you start? Monday. He put the phone down. His heart was pounding in a way it hadn't since the water. Not fear, something else. Something that felt dangerously close to what he'd felt when Nicole said yes to that first date at the restaurant where the waitress spilled water on his lap and Nicole laughed so hard she snorted. Hope. That was the word. He'd been avoiding it for 18 months because hope was dangerous. Hope was the thing that made you believe your wife would beat cancer. Hope was the thing that made you check the mailbox for a callback letter that never came. Hope was the thing that cracked you open and left you exposed. But it was also the thing that made you jump. He told Zara at breakfast, "I got a new job." She put her spoon down. "Where?" "At Vivian's company. I'm going to help build things that save people in the water. Like the thing that could have saved her. Like the thing that could save a lot of people. Do you get to test them? That's literally my job. In the water sometimes." He watched her face, watched for the fear, the flinch, the shadow that always crossed her eyes when water was mentioned. Zara picked up her spoon. "Good," she said. "Then you'll know they work and I won't have to worry." It was the most sophisticated thing she'd ever said about her fear. Not, "I'm not scared," not, "I'm fine, but I won't have to worry." Which meant she understood that her worry was a thing she carried. A weight with a shape, and she was looking for a reason to set it down. Dr. Langford was worth every penny Vivian was paying. "Daddy." "Yeah. Can I come see the lab?" Vivian already said yes. Zara grinned. "I like her." "I know you do. Do you like her?" Isaiah poured his coffee. "I'm figuring that out." "That means yes," Zara said. "It does not. It always means yes, Daddy." He told Walter on Monday morning, stood in the marina shop at 7 a.m., and said the words he'd been dreading. "Walter, I'm leaving." Walter didn't blink. "I know. How do you know?" "Because you've been standing taller for 2 weeks. Because you stopped checking your bank balance every morning. Because you look like a man who's got somewhere to go instead of somewhere to hide." "I'm not hiding." "Isaiah, you've been hiding since Nicole died. You came here because I'd give you work and not ask questions. That's hiding. It's dignified hiding, and I respect it." "But it's hiding." Isaiah leaned against the workbench. "I'm going to miss this place. It's a dock, Isaiah. It'll be here when you need it." "So will I." "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to. You showed up every day, did honest work, and never once complained about the pay, even though we both knew it wasn't enough. That's thanks enough." Isaiah extended his hand. Walter ignored it and hugged him. A rough, brief, backslapping hug that lasted exactly 2 seconds and conveyed approximately 30 years of unspoken male affection. "Go save some lives," Walter said. "I'll try. And bring Zara by on weekends. She still owes me a rematch on checkers. She beat you at checkers 3 times. Kid's a shark." Isaiah drove to the Safety Innovation Lab, parked his truck between a Tesla and a Volvo, walked through the propped-open door, found Devin already at a workbench elbow-deep in a cold water suit prototype. "You're late," Devin said. "It's 8:02. I've been here since 6. We found another problem with the zipper seal. Show me." And just like that, Isaiah went to work. The first week was a blur. Isaiah tore apart 3 prototypes and rebuilt 2. He argued with an engineer named Sarah Kim about buoyancy calculations until she pulled up her data and he pulled up his experience, and they both realized they were half right, which meant they were both half wrong, which meant the product needed a complete redesign. "I hate that you're right," Sarah said. "I hate that I'm right too. It would be easier if the math worked. The math does work. Reality just doesn't agree." Welcome to the ocean. By the second week, Isaiah had earned something he hadn't had in 18 months. Respect that wasn't rooted in pity. The engineers stopped treating him like Vivian's pet project and started treating him like a colleague. Devin gave him his own workstation. Sarah started bringing him coffee in the morning. which Isaiah suspected was less about kindness and more about wanting to argue with him before anyone else got to the office. Zara came to the lab on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. Vivian had set up a corner with a desk, a lamp, and a bookshelf stocked with everything from Charlotte's Web to marine biology textbooks. Zara did her homework there, ate snacks from the vending machine, and occasionally wandered over to the engineering stations to ask questions that made grown men with doctorates pause and reconsider their assumptions. "Why does the suit have to be one color?" Zara asked Sarah one afternoon. "It doesn't have to be." "Why?" "Because if someone's drowning at night, you can't see dark blue. It should be orange or yellow like my life jacket." Sarah looked at Zara, then at Isaiah, then at the prototype. "She's right," Sarah said. "We've been designing for daytime visibility. Nighttime rescue is a completely different color profile." "She's 8, Isaiah said. "She's 8 and she just identified a design flaw that we missed in our testing matrix," Sarah said. "I'm putting her on the team. You are not putting my daughter on the team." "Consultant then. Unpaid. We'll pay her in ice cream." Zara's hand shot up. "I accept." Vivian appeared at the lab every few days, never on a schedule, never with an entourage. She'd walk through, talk to the engineers, look at the prototypes, ask questions. She never told Isaiah what to do. She never overrode his decisions. When he killed a product 2 days before an investor demo because the waterproof seal failed under pressure testing, she backed him without hesitation. "The investors aren't going to like this," Marcus Aldridge told her in the hallway. Isaiah heard it through the open door. "Then the investors can come swim in 48-degree water and tell me the seal is fine," Vivian's voice carried back. "This is a $12 million delay, and a faulty seal is a wrongful death lawsuit and a human life." "Isaiah says it's not ready." "It's not ready." Aldridge sighed. "You've changed. I nearly died, Marcus. It tends to rearrange your priorities." Isaiah pretended he hadn't heard, but something settled in his chest that afternoon. Something that had been loose and rattling for weeks. A piece clicking into place. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of it. The scaffolding on which trust could eventually be built. By the end of the first month, the division had completed its first successful prototype. A rapid deploy personal flotation device that could be thrown from a pier and would automatically orient toward the person in the water using a thermal sensor. Isaiah had tested it himself in the harbor in full gear in 50-degree water. He came out shaking and grinning. "It works," he told Devon. "You're insane," Devon told him. "It works." Zara had watched the test from the pier, holding Vivian's hand. She hadn't screamed, hadn't cried, hadn't frozen. She'd watched her father go into the water and come back out, and she'd waited. When Isaiah climbed the ladder, dripping and shivering, Zara walked to the edge of the pier and looked down at the water. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby. It's not as scary when I know you're coming back." Isaiah wrapped the thermal blanket around his shoulders and knelt down in front of her. "I'm always coming back." "I know." She paused. "Dr. Langford says the water isn't the thing I'm afraid of. She says I'm afraid of losing people. And the water is just where I put that fear. Dr. Langford is a smart lady. She says you should probably talk to someone too." "Did she say that, or did you both?" Isaiah looked up at Vivian, who was standing a few feet away, trying very hard to look like she wasn't listening. "She's right," Vivian said quietly, "for what it's worth." "Didn't ask what it was worth." "I know. I'm offering it anyway, free of charge." He stood up, looked at the harbor, at the water that had almost killed him, at the pier where everything had changed. 6 weeks ago, he'd been fixing outboard motors for $42 an hour with 7 stitches in his arm, and $52 in his checking account. 6 weeks ago, he'd been a man who couldn't afford therapy for his daughter, couldn't sleep through the night, couldn't say his wife's name without his throat closing. He was still that man. The money was different now. The work was different, but the grief was the same. The fear was the same. The 3 a.m. silence in the house was the same. The difference was that now he had people who noticed. "I'll think about it," he told Zara. "That means yes," she said. "It does not always mean yes. It literally always means yes, Daddy." Vivian pressed her lips together. Devin turned away to hide his smile. Sarah, who had been pretending to calibrate a sensor nearby, muttered, "She's got you," under her breath. Isaiah picked up his daughter, thermal blanket and all, and carried her to the truck. "I'm proud of you," he said. "For what?" "For watching me go in the water and not being afraid." "I was a little afraid, but you stayed." "Yeah, that's brave, baby, I know. I get it from Mommy." He put her in the truck, started the engine, drove home through streets that looked the same as they had 6 weeks ago but felt entirely different. That night he sat at the kitchen table after Zara was asleep, and he did something he hadn't done since Nicole's funeral. He opened the drawer where he kept her things, her watch, her reading glasses, the last grocery list she'd written in her handwriting that was always too small and slightly crooked. At the bottom of the drawer was a letter. Nicole had written it during her last week. She'd given it to the hospice nurse and asked her to give it to Isaiah after. He'd read it once at the funeral, then he'd put it in the drawer and closed it. He opened it now. "Isaiah, if you're reading this, I'm not there to say it myself, so here it is in writing because you always said I was better on paper anyway. Take care of Zara. Take care of yourself. Don't shrink. Don't hide. Don't let what happened to me turn you into someone smaller than who you are. You're the man who fixes things. That's not just what you do, it's who you are. So when something breaks, fix it. When someone needs help, help them. When the world gets dark, be the guy who jumps in. I married you because you were that guy. Don't stop being him because I'm gone. I love you. I love Zara. I love the life we built. Now go build something else, something big, something that matters. And don't you dare mope about it. I mean it, Isaiah. Don't mope. Love, Nicole. P.S. Teach Zara to swim. She's going to need it." Isaiah read the letter twice, 3 times, 4. Then he folded it carefully, put it back in the drawer, and closed it. He didn't cry. He'd done enough crying. What he did was sit there in the quiet kitchen in the house that was too silent and let Nicole's words settle into the cracks that had been opening in him for weeks. Go build something else, something big, something that matters. He picked up his phone, opened the text thread with Vivian. The seal on Prototype 4 needs a secondary locking mechanism. I have an idea. Can I come in early tomorrow? The reply came in under a minute. I'll have coffee waiting. Isaiah put the phone down, looked at Nicole's photo on the wall. I'm building, Nicole, he said. I'm building. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It hadn't been empty for weeks. 3 months to the day after Isaiah Monroe jumped into freezing water, the first product shipped. Not to stores, not to consumers, to the Coast Guard. 14 units of the RD-9 Rapid Deploy Personal Flotation Device, the one Zara had suggested should be orange, the one Isaiah had tested himself in 50-degree water, the one that had nearly been killed by a faulty seal he'd caught 2 days before an investor demo, were delivered to a Coast Guard station in Georgia on a Tuesday morning in June. Isaiah wasn't there for the delivery. He was at the lab elbow deep in the next prototype when Vivian walked in holding her phone. They deployed one last night, she said. Isaiah looked up. Already? Fishing vessel capsized off Savannah. 3 crew in the water. One of the responders threw the RD-9 from the rescue boat. It oriented to the nearest swimmer in 3.8 seconds. They pulled all 3 out alive. Isaiah set down his wrench. He didn't speak for a moment. 3.8 seconds, he said. 3.8 seconds. The original design was 8.5. I know, You cut it in half. Devin cut it in half. I just told him the 8-second version would get someone killed. And you were right. Isaiah wiped his hands on his rag. He stared at the workbench, at the parts spread across it, at the next version of a thing that hadn't existed 3 months ago, 3 people alive in Georgia because of something he helped build. He didn't know their names, didn't know their faces, didn't know if they had daughters or wives or mortgages or fears, but they were breathing this morning because a flotation device had found them in the dark water 3.8 seconds faster than it would have otherwise. Isaiah, he looked at Vivian. This is what you built, she said. This is what we built. No, I wrote the checks. Devin did the engineering. Sarah did the calculations, but the reason it works, the reason it's 3.8 seconds instead of 8.5, the reason the seal holds, the reason the color is right for nighttime rescue, that's you. That's 20 years of knowing what the water does to people. That's not something you can buy or engineer. It's something you live. Isaiah didn't know what to do with that. He'd spent his whole life being the guy who fixed things quietly in the background without recognition. He'd never needed anyone to tell him his work mattered. He knew it mattered because the engine ran or the boat floated or the pump didn't leak. The work spoke for itself. But this was different. This wasn't an engine. This was a life. 3 lives. And if they kept going, if the next prototype worked and the one after that, it would be dozens, hundreds more. I need to call Zara, he said. She's in the corner doing homework. Isaiah turned. Zara was sitting at her desk, the one Vivian had set up with the lamp and the bookshelf, with the secret garden open in front of her and a math worksheet she was very clearly ignoring. Baby, she looked up. The thing we built, the orange one, it saved 3 people last night. For real? For real. Fishermen in Georgia. Their boat flipped. Someone threw our device in the water and it found them. Zara put her pencil down. She stood up, walked across the lab and hugged him. Not the desperate, terrified hug from the pier, not the clinging, don't leave me hug from the hospital parking lot, a different kind, the kind that said, I'm proud of you, in a language that didn't need words. Mommy would be so happy, she said into his chest. Yeah, she would. She'd probably cry. She'd definitely cry. And then she'd say something embarrassing, without question. Zara pulled back and looked at him. Daddy, can I tell Dr. Langford about this? Of course. Why? Because last week she asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I said I didn't know. But now I think I do. What do you want to be? Someone who builds things that save people. Like you. Isaiah's throat closed. He blinked again. He was not going to cry in the middle of a lab full of engineers. Sarah, who was absolutely not eavesdropping from 2 stations away, said, I'm not crying. You're crying, and went back to her sensor calibration with suspiciously bright eyes. Devin appeared from the back room. I just got off the phone with the Coast Guard station commander. He wants to order 60 more units. 60? Vivian said. 60. And he gave me the number for the station commanders in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. They want demos. Vivian looked at Isaiah. We need to scale production. We need to fix the battery housing first. The current design won't survive repeated saltwater exposure. 6 months, maybe 8, and the corrosion will compromise the thermal sensor. How long to fix it? 2 weeks if Sarah and I work together. 3 if we argue about it first. You'll argue, Devin said. You always argue. The arguing is where the good ideas come from. Sarah called from her station. Vivian turned to Isaiah. Then we fix the battery housing first. Production waits. Marcus Aldridge, who had been standing by the door with his phone, cleared his throat. Vivian, the investors are expecting a production timeline by Friday. If we delay, then we delay. They've already expressed concern about the pace of... Marcus. Vivian's voice was quiet but absolute. 3 men are alive today because Isaiah said the 8-second version wasn't good enough. If he says the battery housing needs 2 weeks, it gets 2 weeks. The investors can wait, the ocean doesn't. Aldridge looked at Isaiah, then at Vivian. Then he nodded and walked out. Isaiah watched him go. You know, Isaiah said, 18 months ago, someone in your company flagged my file for retention and the corporate machine overrode it. And just now you overrode your corporate machine for me. That's not nothing, Vivian. It was the first time he'd called her Vivian to her face, not Miss Cross, not a careful, measured formality, her name spoken plainly the way you say the name of someone you've started to trust. Vivian heard it. He could tell by the way she paused, just a half-second, barely perceptible before responding. It's not for you, she said. It's for the 3 men in Georgia and the next 3 and the 3 after that. Still, it's not nothing. No, she agreed. It's not. The weeks that followed moved fast. Isaiah and Sarah fixed the battery housing in 11 days, 2 days ahead of schedule despite the arguing, which produced exactly the kind of breakthrough Devon had predicted. The redesigned RD-9 went into production. Orders came in from 4 more Coast Guard stations, 2 Navy bases, and a maritime rescue nonprofit in Oregon that had seen the Georgia story on the news. Vivian did something Isaiah didn't expect. She gave the nonprofit units at cost. No markup, no licensing fee. Aldridge nearly had a stroke. We're a business, Vivian, not a charity. We're both, Marcus. We've always been both. I just forgot for a while. Isaiah heard about it from Devon, who told him over coffee with the particular glee of a man who enjoyed watching corporate orthodoxy get dismantled. She's not the same person, Devon said. People don't change that fast, Isaiah said. He'd been saying it for 3 months. It was becoming less a conviction and more a reflex, something he repeated because stopping would mean admitting he'd been wrong. Maybe she didn't change fast, Devon said. Maybe she changed the night she almost drowned and she's just been catching up to it ever since. Isaiah drank his coffee and didn't respond. But that night, sitting at the kitchen table after Zara was asleep, he thought about Devon's words. He thought about Vivian at the first Saturday at Sweetwater, eating strawberry ice cream like she'd forgotten how. He thought about her in the rain on the 5th Saturday, waving off the umbrella. He thought about her standing in the hallway telling Aldridge that the ocean doesn't wait. He thought about her reading 216 personnel files and calling her board to say she'd fund the back pay herself. And he thought about Nicole who had believed fiercely in the capacity of people to change. Nicole, who had once forgiven her own sister for missing 3 months of chemo visits and had said, "She was scared, Isaiah. Scared people do small things. That doesn't make them small people." Nicole, who had written in her last letter, "Don't let what happened to me turn you into someone smaller than who you are." He opened the drawer, took out the letter, read it again. Not the whole thing, just the postscript. Teach Zara to swim. She's going to need it. He'd been avoiding that one. Of all Nicole's instructions, that was the one he couldn't face. Teaching Zara to swim meant taking her to the water. And taking her to the water meant confronting the thing that terrified her most. But Dr. Langford had been working on it. Zara had been working on it. 2 weeks ago, Zara had stood at the edge of the pier and watched Isaiah test the RD-9 without crying. Last week, she'd walked to the waterline at the beach and let the waves touch her shoes. Progress. Slow, painful, beautiful progress. The next Saturday at Sweetwater, Isaiah brought it up. "Baby, I want to talk to you about something." "Uh-oh. It's not bad. You always say it's not bad when it's bad. It's not bad. I promise." Zara licked her strawberry ice cream and waited. "Your mommy wanted me to teach you to swim." She wrote it in her letter. "The one she left for me." Zara's spoon stopped. She wrote it in her letter. "The one she left for me." Zara's spoon stopped. Isaiah looked at Vivian. So did Zara. Vivian, sitting across from them, went very still. "I don't want to," Zara said quietly. "I know. The water scares me. I know that too." Dr. Langford says the fear won't go away if I keep running from it. She says I have to go toward it, but I don't want to. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, not ever. But I want you to think about something. What? 3 months ago you stood on a pier and told me to jump into the water to save a stranger. You were terrified, you were shaking, and you did it anyway. That was different. How? Because someone was going to die. And what about you? You've been dying a little bit every day, baby. Every time it rains and you flinch. Every time you dream about the water and wake up screaming. Every time you check my room at night to make sure I'm still there. That's a kind of drowning too. And your mommy knew it would happen. That's why she told me to teach you. Zara's eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. She let the tears sit there, balanced on her lower lids, trembling. Will you be in the water with me? Every second. What if I panic? Then I'll hold you until you stop. What if I can't do it? Then we try again another day. No pressure, no deadline, just you and me and the water. Whenever you're ready. Zara looked at Vivian. Will you come too? Vivian's eyes widened slightly. If you want me there, absolutely. I want you there, because you were in the water too, and you came out. So if both of you did it, then maybe I can. Vivian reached across the table and put her hand over Zara's. You can, Vivian said. I've watched you walk to the edge of that pier every Saturday for 3 months. You go a little closer each time. You don't even realize it, but last week you were standing at the very edge. Your toes were hanging over. They were. You were looking straight down at the water and you weren't shaking. Zara thought about that. I was looking for fish, she said. I wasn't trying to be brave. That's the best kind of brave, Isaiah said. The kind you don't even notice. Zara picked up her ice cream again, took a bite, chewed slowly. Okay, she said. Okay, what? Okay, teach me. But not in the ocean. In a pool first. And I get to wear my life jacket. You can't swim in a life jacket, baby. I can try. Vivian laughed. A real one. The kind that came from somewhere deep and surprised her when it arrived. I'll rent a pool, Vivian said. You don't have to rent a pool, Isaiah said. I want to. A warm one with a shallow end and no waves. Vivian, let me do this. Isaiah, please. He looked at her. At the woman who 4 months ago had been a name on a layoff letter, a signature, a corporate abstraction, and who was now sitting at a picnic table offering to rent a swimming pool for his daughter because an 8-year-old had asked her to be there. Okay, he said. Okay, don't make me say it twice. The swimming lesson happened the following Wednesday. Vivian rented the indoor pool at the Charleston Community Center. Not some billionaire's private facility, but the regular community pool where regular people swam regular laps. She'd asked Isaiah where Zara would feel most comfortable, and he'd said, somewhere that doesn't smell like money. And Vivian had understood exactly what he meant. Zara stood at the edge of the pool in her swimsuit, her yellow life jacket folded on a bench nearby, like a security blanket she could see but didn't need to hold. Isaiah was already in the water, waist deep, arms open. Whenever you're ready, baby girl. Zara looked at the water. Her hands were fists at her sides. Her jaw was set. She was doing the thing Isaiah had seen her do 100 times. The internal battle between the fear and the bravery. The part of her that wanted to run and the part that refused to. Vivian sat on the bench behind Zara, close enough to be present, far enough not to crowd. I'm scared, Zara said. I know, Isaiah said. My heart's going really fast. Mine did too. The night I jumped. What did you think about right before you jumped? Isaiah stood in the water and looked at his daughter and told her the truth. You. I thought about you. Zara's lip trembled. She unclenched one fist, then the other. She took a step forward, her toes touched the water. She flinched, but she didn't pull back. It's warm, she said, surprised. I told you. It's not like the ocean. It's a pool, it's safe. And I'm right here. Zara took another step. The water reached her ankles, her breathing quickened. Her hands found the pool ladder. Daddy, right here, don't let go. Never. She stepped off the ladder into the water. It came up to her waist. She gasped, not from cold, but from the shock of being in it, of standing in the thing that had lived in her nightmares for over a year. Isaiah moved toward her slowly. He didn't grab her. He didn't rush. He just stood there 2 feet away with his arms open. Zara let go of the ladder. She stood in the water on her own for 3 seconds. 5, 10. Then she took a step toward Isaiah and another and another. When she reached him, she grabbed his arms and held on. I'm in the water, she whispered. You're in the water. I'm not drowning. You're not drowning. Daddy, I'm in the water and I'm okay. Her voice cracked on the last word, not from fear, from something else. From the overwhelming, crashing realization that the thing she'd been most afraid of, the thing that had haunted her sleep and stolen her peace and made her scream on playgrounds, was touching her skin right now, and she was still standing. Isaiah pulled her close. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on, and he could feel her heart pounding against his chest, fast and wild and alive. Mommy would be so proud of you, he said. Are you proud of me? More than I've ever been of anything. More than the flotation thing? 1,000 times more than the flotation thing. Zara laughed, a wet, shaky, incredible laugh. From the bench, Vivian watched. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She sat there with her hands folded in her lap, and for the second time since Isaiah had known her, she let the tears come without fighting them. Zara spent 20 minutes in the pool. She didn't swim, she walked, she splashed. She let Isaiah hold her while she floated on her back, staring up at the ceiling, breathing. When she got out, she walked straight to the bench, picked up her yellow life jacket and held it for a moment. Then she folded it neatly and put it in her bag. I don't think I need to wear this everywhere anymore, she said. Isaiah's vision blurred. He turned away so she wouldn't see. But Zara saw anyway, because Zara always saw. Daddy, you're crying. I'm not crying. Liar. Vivian handed him a towel. He took it and pressed it to his face. And if it stayed there a few seconds longer than necessary, nobody mentioned it. They drove home in the truck, all 3 of them, because Vivian had told her driver to take the evening off and asked Isaiah for a ride, which was so far from the Vivian Cross, who arrived in a black SUV with tinted windows, that Isaiah almost didn't recognize the distance they'd traveled. Zara fell asleep in the back seat with her head against the window. Her wet hair left a mark on the glass. Vivian sat in the passenger seat, quiet, looking out at the road. Thank you, Isaiah said. For what? For the pool, for being there, for not making it a big deal. It was a big deal. I know, but you didn't make it one. You let Zara own it. That matters. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Isaiah, can I tell you something? Go ahead. That night in the water when my car was sinking, I had exactly one thought before I lost consciousness. It wasn't about the company. It wasn't about my money or my legacy or any of the things I'd spent my whole life building. It was, I don't want to die without having mattered to someone. She paused. Not mattered in the way a CEO matters, as a name on a building or a balance sheet. Mattered the way Nicole mattered to you, the way you matter to Zara, mattered to someone who would notice I was gone, who would feel the hole. Vivian. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because you asked me once what I was asking for. And I said time. Time to prove I'd changed. But the truth is, I wasn't just asking for time. I was asking for the chance to matter to someone in a way that had nothing to do with money. Isaiah drove in silence for a full minute. You matter to Zara, he said. She talks about you every day. She tells Dr. Langford about you. She told her teacher you're her friend, not her daddy's boss. Her friend. Vivian pressed her hand to her mouth. And for what it's worth, Isaiah said, you matter to me too. Not because of the job or the pool or the therapy payments. Because you showed up every Saturday in the rain without checking your phone. That's the thing that changed my mind about you. Not the money. The showing up. Isaiah. I'm not done. I held on to anger at you for 18 months. I told myself you were the reason my life fell apart, that the layoff killed Nicole's chances, ruined our insurance, destroyed everything, and some of that is true, but Nicole was already dying before you signed that paper. And I was already falling apart before I got that letter. You didn't break me, Vivian. Life broke me. You just happened to be holding the pen. He gripped the steering wheel. I forgive you. The words came out plain, undecorated, no dramatic music, no swelling orchestra. Just a man in a truck saying 3 words to a woman in the passenger seat, while their daughter slept in the back. I don't know if I deserve that, Vivian said. You don't. That's why it's forgiveness and not payment. Vivian turned to look out the window. The harbor was visible in the distance, the water dark and calm under a sky full of stars. Nicole was right about you, she said quietly. You didn't know Nicole. I know what she wrote in her letter. Zara told me. She said your mommy told you to be the guy who jumps in. And you are. You're exactly that. Isaiah pulled into his driveway, cut the engine. Zara stirred in the back seat but didn't wake. Same time Saturday? He asked. Same time Saturday. Vivian got out of the truck. She stood in the driveway for a moment looking at the house. The small, ordinary house with the leaky faucet and the photo of Nicole on the kitchen wall and the drawer full of memories and the nightlight in Zara's room that she didn't always need anymore. Good night, Isaiah. Good night, Vivian. She called a car and waited on the sidewalk. Isaiah carried Zara inside, changed her into pajamas without waking her, and put her to bed. He pulled the blanket up to her chin. Her hair was still damp from the pool. Good night, brave girl, he whispered. He walked to the kitchen, stood in front of Nicole's photo. She swam today, Nicole. Well, she walked in a pool, but she was in the water. She let go of the ladder. She laughed. He touched the frame. I read your letter again. The postscript. You told me to teach her to swim. I'm doing it. She's going to need it. You were right about that. She's going to need it because she's going to be the kind of person who jumps in for other people. Just like you were. Just like you made me. He stood there for a long time. I built something, Nicole. Something real, something that saves people. 3 fishermen in Georgia are alive because of a thing I helped make. And there'll be more. I know there'll be more. The house was quiet. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. I miss you every day. That's never going to stop. But I'm not drowning anymore. Zara's not drowning. We're swimming. Badly and slowly and with a lot of splashing, but we're swimming. He turned off the kitchen light. Then he turned it back on, opened the drawer, took out Nicole's letter, read the postscript one more time. Teach Zara to swim. She's going to need it. He picked up a pen from the counter, and at the bottom of the letter beneath Nicole's handwriting, he wrote 4 words. She did it, Nicole. He put the letter back, closed the drawer, turned off the light. The next Saturday, Isaiah and Zara and Vivian sat at the same picnic table at Sweetwater. Strawberry for Zara, strawberry for Vivian, black coffee for Isaiah. The pier was quiet. The water was calm. The tide rolled in slow and steady the way it always had. Patient, indifferent, ancient. Zara finished her ice cream and walked to the railing. She leaned over and looked at the water. No flinch, no trembling. Just a girl looking at the ocean with something that wasn't quite comfort and wasn't quite courage, but was something in between, something new, something she was building one day at a time. Vivian stood beside Isaiah and watched her. "I used to think power meant control," she said. "I remember. I was wrong. Power is just money with a title. What you have, what you and Zara have, that's something else entirely." "What is it?" "I don't know, but I'd give everything I own to build it." Isaiah looked at Zara, at the water, at the sky going gold and pink above the harbor, at the pier where he'd made the worst and best decision of his life. "You don't build it by giving things away, Vivian. You build it by showing up every Saturday in the rain without checking your phone. I can do that. I know you can." Zara turned from the railing and ran back to them. "No more scaring me, Daddy. No more scaring you. Promise, promise." She looked at him with those clear eyes. Clear now, steady, holding something that hadn't been there 4 months ago. "I believe you this time," she said. And there was no fear in her voice. Not because the fear was gone. It wasn't. And maybe it never would be completely. But because she had learned what her mother had always known, what her father had proven on a freezing night in black water, and what a billionaire had discovered at the bottom of a harbor with her last breath leaving her lungs. That the only thing that separates the people who drown from the people who don't isn't strength or money or luck. It's who's willing to jump. And sometimes the man the world overlooks, the mechanic with the grease-stained hands and the cracked phone screen and the $52 in his wallet, is the one who saves it. Not with credentials, not with wealth, not with a corner office or a signature on a letterhead. With courage, with integrity, with the kind of love that dives in without thinking and never once asks to be repaid. Isaiah Monroe was that man. He always had been. 6 months after the rescue, the Safety Innovation Lab had shipped 180 units to Coast Guard stations across 5 states. The RD-9 had been deployed in 14 separate incidents. 47 people pulled from the water alive, not theoretical, not projected. 47 documented saves. Isaiah kept a map in his workstation with pins marking each one. Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Virginia. 47 pins, 47 lives. Devin walked past it one afternoon and stopped. "You know what that is?" Isaiah asked. "What?" "Proof that character outranks credentials, every single time." Devin nodded and kept walking. 8 months after the rescue, Vivian Cross did something no one expected. She resigned as CEO of Cross Maritime Corporation. Not fired, not removed. She walked into a board meeting, announced her resignation, and sold her controlling shares to an investment group for an undisclosed sum that the Wall Street Journal estimated at $2.1 billion. She kept one position, director of the Safety Innovation Lab. Not CEO, not even VP. Director. A title that came with a salary exactly equal to what Isaiah made. The board tried to stop her. Eleanor Vance, the chair, the founder's widow who had saved Vivian's position twice, asked her privately, "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Vivian said. "You're giving up $4.8 billion. I'm keeping what matters." The news broke on a Thursday. Isaiah saw it on his phone while eating lunch with Zara at the lab. He stared at the headline. Zara looked over his shoulder. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. You're doing the jaw thing." Isaiah looked at his daughter. "What jaw thing?" "The thing where you clench your teeth when you're worried." "I don't do that. You literally always do that." He unclenched his jaw. Vivian walked into the lab 20 minutes later. Isaiah stood up. "We need to talk." "I assumed we would." "Not here." They walked to the pier, the same pier where it had started. The guardrail had been replaced. The water looked the same. "You quit," Isaiah said. "I resigned. You sold the company. I sold my shares. Why?" "Because I realized something." "What?" "That I spent 30 years building an empire to prove I mattered, and it didn't work." The only time I've ever felt like I mattered was sitting at a picnic table eating strawberry ice cream with you and Zara. That's what you're giving up $4.8 billion for? Strawberry ice cream? Isaiah. No. I want to understand. You worked your whole life for that, and I almost died for it. Literally. I drove into a harbor because I was thinking about quarterly earnings instead of the road. And when I was drowning, every single thing I'd built meant nothing. The only thing that mattered was whether someone would jump. And you did. Not because of what I had, because of who needed help. She looked out at the water. I don't want to be the person who measures worth in dollars anymore, Isaiah. I want to be the person who measures it in lives saved, in showing up on Saturdays, in teaching a little girl to swim. That's the richest I've ever felt. And if I have to give up everything else to keep that, then it's not even a choice. Isaiah was quiet for a long time. What are you going to do with $2.1 billion? I'm setting up a foundation. Monroe Cross Marine Safety. Not Cross Monroe. Monroe Cross. Funding nonprofits, research, coastal communities. And before you argue, it's named after you because you're the one who showed me what saving people actually looks like. Isaiah shook his head. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. They walked back to the lab. Zara was waiting at the door. Did you quit because of us? Vivian knelt down. I quit because of me, because I want to be the kind of person your daddy already is, the kind who jumps. Zara hugged her. Vivian's arms came around her slowly, carefully, like she was holding something precious and fragile. When Zara pulled back, she said, Mommy would have liked you. I think so too, Vivian said. 9 months after the rescue, Isaiah Monroe stood in the backyard of the house he'd lived in for 12 years. The oak tree was still there, the one with Nicole's initials carved in the bark. He'd carved them on their 5th anniversary. DW plus MW equals forever. Nicole had laughed and said, That's permanent, you know. Good, he'd said. So are we. He traced the letters with his finger. Vivian stood beside him. Zara was inside doing homework. I want to show you something, Isaiah said. Okay. He pulled out a pocket knife. Vivian watched as he carved new letters beneath Nicole's. VC plus IM plus ZM equals family. He stepped back. Vivian stared at the tree. Isaiah, I'm not erasing her. I could never erase her. She's the foundation of everything I am. But I think she'd want this. I think she'd want Zara to have someone. And I think she'd want me to stop being afraid of being happy. Are you? Afraid? Terrified. But I'm doing it anyway. That's what jumping means. Vivian touched the carved letters. You're adding me to her. Not replacing. Adding. Vivian turned to face him. Isaiah Monroe, are you asking me what I think you're asking me? I'm asking if you'll marry me. Not because of what you have, not because of what you gave up, because you showed up every single Saturday for 9 months. Because you rented a pool for my daughter. Because you measure worth in lives saved instead of dollars earned. Because when I look at you, I see tomorrow. And I haven't seen tomorrow since Nicole died. Vivian's hands were shaking. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They stood under the tree with Nicole's initials above them and the new carving below. Forever didn't mean until death. It meant the love lasted forever, changed shape, made room, built on what came before. 1 year after Isaiah Monroe jumped into Charleston Harbor, he stood at the front of a small gathering in the backyard under the oak tree. Mrs. Pauline Washington sat in the front row, 72 years old, wearing her Sunday best and crying happy tears. Walter Kane stood beside Isaiah, the best man, former Navy, current mentor, permanent friend. Dr. Simone Langford was there, Devin Pierce and Sarah Kim, 47 people whose lives had been saved by the RD9 sent cards. Zara stood between Isaiah and Vivian, holding both their hands. wearing a white dress and her biggest smile. The officiant, a friend of Nicole's from before, asked if anyone objected. Silence. Not uncomfortable, peaceful. Then Zara spoke up. "I think Mommy would say yes." Everyone laughed. The officiant smiled. "Then I think we're good." Isaiah looked at Vivian, at the woman who had almost died and chose to live differently, at the billionaire who became a director, at the person who learned that showing up mattered more than status. "I promise to honor the love that built me," Isaiah said, "and to build new love that honors her." Vivian's vows were simple. "I promise to keep showing up, in rain and sun, in fear and joy, for as long as we both shall live." They kissed. Everyone cheered, Zara loudest of all. 5 years later, in the summer of 2036, Isaiah Monroe stood on the same pier where it all began. Zara, now 13, stood beside him. Taller now, confident, still drawing like Nicole used to, still asking questions that made adults reconsider their assumptions. The Safety Innovation Lab had produced 7 different products, 147 documented saves, real people, real families. Isaiah had visited 12 of them over the years, shaken hands, heard stories, met children who existed because their parents had been pulled from the water 3.8 seconds faster. Vivian ran the Monroe Cross Foundation full-time now. $50 million deployed to coastal communities, marine safety education, emergency response training. She worked from a small office in the warehouse, not a penthouse. She drove a Prius, not a Mercedes. She ate strawberry ice cream every Saturday at Sweetwater with Isaiah and Zara. "Daddy," Zara said. "Yeah, baby. Remember when you jumped in right here? Every day. You were scared, but you jumped anyway. Best decision I ever made." Vivian, who had walked up behind them, said second best. Saying yes to me was first. Isaiah laughed. Real, full, free, the kind of laugh that came from a man who had learned that grief and joy could coexist. That moving forward didn't mean leaving behind, that forever meant love endured, transformed, expanded. Mrs. Washington, now 77, still brought casseroles. Walter had retired and given Kane's Boatworks to Isaiah as a gift. A full circle. The backyard oak tree had both carvings. Nicole's above, Vivian's family below. Zara had added her own last year. A small heart with the words, "Two mommies, one in heaven, one here." The water rolled in, patient, indifferent, ancient. But also the place where everything changed, where a man chose courage over safety, where a child chose bravery over fear, where a woman chose meaning over money. Sometimes the man the world overlooks, the one with grease under his nails and scars on his arm and a heart that won't stop trying, is the one who saves it. Not with power, not with wealth, with character, with love, with the willingness to jump when everyone else walks away. Isaiah Monroe was that man, and he taught his daughter to be that woman. And together they taught a billionaire what it meant to be rich.